All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning into our podcast. As you know, my main goal is to help shortcut new realtors, experienced realtors, and maybe just try to at least give you guys one golden nugget that you can use to make some money in your real estate career. Today, I have Rob Hostry here, who is one of the owners of Crown Homes. Rob has accomplished a lot. He's built a great real estate team, and I think you recruited one or two agents last year too, didn't you?
Yeah, just a couple, Brian.
Yeah.
Now, thank you so much for the introduction, man. It's awesome to be here, and I'm proud of you for getting out of your comfort zone and doing this. I know we talked about it for a long time. But yeah, like Brian said, I'm one of the owners of Crown Homes. I also own the Hostry Group. We sold about 101 deals last year.
So I was going to tell everyone your volume, but I said, you know what, Rob, he's going to tell everybody himself. You know what?
I mean, you can.
No, I'm just kidding. I thought you'd be a perfect guest because you came in, basically, I know a little bit about your story, but I'm going to ask you, you were thrown into the business like everybody else. You don't come from a huge real estate background, and you basically took it from that to now you're probably the fastest growing real estate brokerage in the area. And you guys have got some really awesome agents. You're doing a lot of great things over there. You know, today I just want to do my best to kind of figure out what you did to get from there to where you are today to try to give that back to the audience. So
Absolutely. All right, cool. So, I mean, the way I got into real estate, Brian, is kind of amazing. So I was selling cars at the time at Maserati of Wilmington Pike, and we were doing this marketing campaign where we would call high-level professionals, attorneys, doctors, lawyers, stuff like that, and quite literally giving them a Maserati for the weekend, no strings attached. So pretty sweet deal. But so I made a phone call to who I thought was what I thought was the number for the realtor that sold my wife and I our house. And I got in touch with somebody else, and I basically told him, like, hey, I want to give you a Maserati for the weekend, yada, yada, yada. He ended up coming in, and we kind of connected right away. And so I told him a little bit about the car, and then didn't see him again until that Monday. And this person and I joke about it all the time now. The conversation we had on that Monday was very similar to the conversation, if you're familiar with The Wolf of Wall Street, where Jordan Belfort's in the booth at the diner, and Donnie Azoff goes up to him and is like, yo, I see you in my apartment complex. Like, what do you do for a living? And he's like, I'm a stockbroker. He's like, how much money do you make? And Jordan Belfort told him that. So I basically had that same exact conversation with this guy. Mm. And he had one of the biggest months of his life in real estate at the time, and told me a number that what he made in a month is more than I could fathom even making in a year at that point. And I was like, man, like, you think I can make that kind of money? And he's like, yeah, man. So like, I do. If you're a hustler, like, you're well-spoken and you obviously have a sales ability. So yeah, I think you could. I was like, all right, cool. And kind of left it at that. So that night I went home and I told my wife, I was like, yeah, I met this guy and he has an amazing real estate career. And at the time I was miserable at the job I was in. I hated being at a specific location for a set amount of times, and it just was miserable. You know what I mean? And I knew something needed to change.
Right.
So I told my wife, I was like, what do you think if I go into real estate? She was like, and at this point, I was already on like career move number 2 or 3. Right. In the relationship with my fiance at the time. And so I was like, all right, well, I don't know what I'm going to do. Like, I got to toe that line, but then again, like, I'm going to do what's best for me and my family. So I go into the dealership the next day. I call the guy and I'm like, yeah, I think I want to know more about real estate. So he invited me down to one of his sales meetings. And again, there was no expectations that he was expecting me to leave my job anytime soon. So a day or two after that, I called him and I was like, hey, I just want to let you know I quit the dealership and I'm going to come work for you. And he said, what? And I was like, yeah, man, I'm going to come work for you if you'll be okay with it. And I'm going to I'm going to sell real estate, and I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to be your top salesman the first year I'm there. It's like, all right, I like this guy. And so that's how I got into real estate.
Awesome.
Fast forward to the end of my first year, I sold 36 houses. First full year.
Okay, so hold on. You get in. Did you have your license at that point?
No, I ended up just shadowing him for about 3 months. Like, I went every single place that this guy went. I went to every single meeting he was in. I basically was a shadow. And that was probably the best move I've ever made from a business standpoint, because I was fully immersed. There was no backup plan. There was no plan B.
Right.
Like, I was either going to figure this real estate thing out and make a name for myself in the business, or I was going to go back to the dealership. And there's no way in hell I was going to be okay going back to the dealership.
Right.
But as soon as I jumped in, I jumped in the real estate world full time. Took me about 3-4 months to get my license. Got licensed in PA first, and then Delaware, and then I ended up getting my Maryland license a couple of years later.
That's awesome, man. You should be proud of yourself, because I know a lot of people listening are like, man, I don't know if I have the guts to make that move.
Mm-hmm.
When you decided to do that, I'm sure you weren't 100% confident, right? Like,
no.
And you didn't know, I'm sure there's a ton of negative self-talk, and everybody listening is probably saying, I wish I could do that, but, I want to have kids one day, or I want to have X, Y, and Z, and I need to have that stability and structure. So is there, like, what did you do for your fiance to not murder you and to do that? Like, what was that like? Were you just like, I'm going?
I dove in head first. I that night right after I had talked to him that Monday, I was pretty sure what I was going to do. And she knew that whatever I put my mind to, I could do. And the only thing that I can control is me. So I took a bet on myself, and I was either gonna, rewind a little bit. So I don't come from real estate, anything. Like, my dad was a scientist. My mom worked at Christiana Care. Struggled to make ends meet. And all I knew is I would be damned if I was going to be in the same financial situation that they were in when I start bringing children into this world. Mm-hmm. So it was either sink or swim for me.
That's awesome. I think it's when you have that much on the line, mm-hmm. there's only one way to do it,
Exactly. Exactly.
So, man, I give you a lot of credit for that. That's awesome. That was actually my next question. So, facing the fears and doubts is common mm-hmm. for a lot of realtors early in their career. Can you share how you overcame those? I think we kind of...
Yeah, don't get me wrong, Brian, negative self-talk was a problem that I experienced, and it's still a problem today. Like, I still experience negative self-talk almost on a daily basis now, but I know how to manage that mm-hmm. More. And again, it's just... I might not be the best salesperson. I might not be the best realtor, but I can guarantee I'm going to outwork every single person in Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland real estate.
Yeah, I guarantee you will work everyone except one, but that's awesome, man. I feel the same way. It's like, I had a similar situation where when I opened up the brokerage, mm-hmm. it was like, we had a couple different options. Well, I had a couple different options pointed at me, and all of them were a better option than opening a brokerage. And it was like, at the end of the day, the only thing you can measure is what you can control. Exactly. And it's like, if you're going to get this far and realize, oh, I didn't do it because I couldn't count on myself, I wouldn't be comfortable living my life. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yep, exactly. And I always remember my dad telling me he had so many opportunities put in front of him through the course of his life. And he erred on the side of caution and always took the easy road or the safest option. And I always remember him telling me, he was like, man, the only piece of advice that I really want you to understand is to always bet on yourself and to always take those risks. You know what I mean? Like, what's the worst that you lose? It doesn't work out, and then you go on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I really kind of internalized that throughout the course of my life and business career. And, Yeah. So.
Yeah. I think everybody listening can really learn something from that. And it seems like such a big bet at the time, but at the end of the day, it's like, it's not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
what made you, I mean, I know you said, and I know your story as well, but like, I know you had all these other options. Like, what was that tipping point that was, you were like, all right, I'm going to bet on myself and I'm going to do this no matter what the naysayers are saying?
Well, it wasn't even the naysayers. A lot of it was me. It was, you know, who's going to train all the agents? Who's going to recruit the agents? Who's going to sell houses for you? Who's going to, you know, there's 1,000 questions that if you were going to go start, we had options from 3 different other companies to start one of their branches, basically. And if you were going to do that, you'd have these massive, huge companies behind you. But one, I wouldn't be able to fully help an agent that was to come on because I would be within the guidelines of someone else's model. So a new agent, if they were to come on, you know, okay, you have to go through, I'm trying to do this without calling out.
But sure.
You'd have to go through their model. And, you know, if there was something that we didn't agree with, which was part of the reason I was creating this was because I wanted a new system.
Exactly.
I want to be able to give it back.
You want to break away from that mold that is kind of those traditional brokerages.
100%. So really at the end of the day, it was, the last metric that made it was, one, we would have a saleable company if I started Foraker. 2, it was like I was at the end of the road, and the only thing was, if I can do it, it would be 5 years from now, a better deal to start Foraker. Do I think I can do it or not? And I didn't really know the answer, so I just was like, screw it. Let's go. You know what I mean?
The thing that I hear and that resonates the most with me is you're always like thought stacking. You're always projecting like too far in advance. Like, well, what if, like you said, who's going to train the agents? Who's going to process the commissions? Who's going to do this, this, and this? Like, what I found is if you can figure out a way to live in the moment and live day by day, like you're going to figure it out a lot better than stressing yourself out and projecting 5-10 years down the line, or even a week, a month, a quarter down the line. And a lot of times I feel like a lot of people can't get over that, and they let that thought stacking kind of prevent them from doing what they really want to do or what their real vision is. Yeah.
And that's such a good point. And it works in the opposite direction too. Had I said, no, I can't count on myself, then, you know, it's, hey, we want to get licensed in Maryland. Oh, like, you can't count on yourself to do enough to make it worth it. Hey, we want to take on this big team, or we want to get another office. It just compounds to where you'll never take a risk, and you'll lose all confidence. You'll lose all motivation. You lose everything. So
exactly.
I mean, the day I left Berkshire to open Foraker, I realized I need a physical location in Delaware. Mind you, I just spent every dollar to my name on buying a huge building in Pennsylvania. And I'm like, oh, I should have.
I mean, that's a bet within itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I should have done that first. So like, you know, I had to go find an office, and then you're like, oh, I need a separate broker for these two. And then I need separate accounts. And
then you need a physical Delaware location for the Delaware side of things. So it's a whole different.
It's It's almost like, I think the real key for everyone to take away here is that, one, obviously you need to just bet on yourself, right? Yeah. It's a 1 second decision that you got to make. Like, am I going to do it or not?
I found the more you harp on making a big life altering or business altering decision, the more time you take to think about it. And again, those thought stacking starts to take place, the less likely you are to actually do something and execute it.
Yeah. And I have to take a step back and give Corey a lot of credit. He was the one that really pushed me into doing it, pointing out the benefits of having a saleable company, you know, what I'll be able to do to help people. And the same with Dustin Parker, you know, he gave me everything to get going. So let's move on and stick to the script. That's my worst part about doing this. I'm not that good at it. So, all right, growth and team building. Before we get into building your team, when you got started, what did you do to, all right, day one, I need to get some sales. I mean, was that guy giving you leads?
So I actually stepped into a really, really fortunate situation. So at the time, he had a part of his team that was geared towards executive relocation rentals. And I really cut my teeth on doing a lot of executive relocation rentals. And I kind of headed that with him. And then once I got to a certain point, he kind of turned me loose on that. So I had a lot of experience dealing with all sorts of different people, different situations that come up while people are moving from overseas to the Philadelphia market. It was a lot of the rentals were in the Philly market. So it really gave me a good foundation to really, really excel in putting deals together, how to structure that kind of stuff.
That's awesome.
And then also this guy had a huge realtor.com budget. So, and through those 3 months that I was his shadow, I would hear him on every single sales call, every single inbound lead. I would hear him converting. And one thing that he always told me, he was like, Rob, you don't need to be the best salesperson. You need to know a really good salesperson and say what they say. And that's something that I really took to heart. And I basically became a parrot for a long time, just saying everything that I heard him saying. And it really, really helped me get my real estate business off the ground. But the first part of your question, one of the best decisions I made was joining a team when I first got into real estate.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many different things other than just how to get leads that how are you supposed to learn that without having an amazing mentor?
Yeah.
So I mean, I owe a lot of my success and a lot of the knowledge that I have in real estate for this person and really investing in me.
Yeah. So you were getting these executive rentals. You were showing them houses for them to rent.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So to me, that sounds horrible.
It was, man. It was. But I mean, like our average rental was anywhere from $2,500 to $10,000 a month. And PA pays 50%. So for somebody that was making 60, 70 grand at the car dealership, like I was getting a couple $1,000s a week. And I was like, damn, like, this is awesome. But like how, like obviously buying or helping somebody buy or sell is going to net you more money.
Yeah.
So it kind of just took off from there and snowballed.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me like you're saying that was a blessing. To me, that sounds like a nightmare.
Yeah.
So, and I wouldn't be able to convince a lot of realtors to go show rentals.
But again, Brian, it goes back. I didn't know what I didn't know. Like, I didn't know like being a rental agent was like.
Right. It's, if I can close 2 of these, I can pay my mortgage.
Exactly.
2 more, and I got free money.
Exactly.
And
And I was at a point where like I would have done anything. If he was like, dude, you got to go knock on every single house in Philadelphia's door to get your real estate business off the ground, I would do it. Like I didn't care what it took.
Yeah, I'm with you.
All I knew is I did not want to go back to that dealership.
Yeah. Burn the boat.
Yeah, exactly.
It wasn't even an option.
No, it wasn't even a thought in my mind. It was, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this real estate thing down pat, and I'm going to take it to the next level.
Awesome. Cool. So you started as a new agent. You worked realtor.com leads. I don't really want to go into that. I think the main takeaway there is the mentality that regardless of what it is, let's go make some money.
Yeah, exactly.
And just go.
And again, that was a totally different market than what we're in today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was back in 2016, 2017.
Yeah. And I mean, that seems like a great database to have now if they're going to be buying anytime soon.
Exactly.
So you got 36 deals your first year. Were they all mainly realtor.com?
Almost every single one, yeah.
That's awesome.
I don't think I closed my first SOI deal until year 2 in the business.
So year 1 in the business, no experience in real estate. You're closing 3 deals a month off of online leads.
About that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you probably didn't sell any for the first 2 months. It was probably more like 1 a week.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's insane.
And then the traction started coming, and it's like, all right, there's some meat on the bone here. But one of the coolest things that came out of that executive relocation, the rental side of things, was my first sale was from one of these executive relo guys, and he had a very significant budget. And I was showing him penthouses in downtown Philadelphia, in like the business district of Philadelphia. And he ended up texting me I don't know, like 2 weeks after we were doing, like, into the rental showings, it's like, hey, I found a house I think I want to buy. So it's like, all right, great. Like, he sends me over the address and my jaw hit the floor. There's a $1.1 million townhouse. He's
That's
like, I want
awesome.
to buy cash. And here I am negotiating hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. Like, I think our initial offer, it was listed at 1.1, and I think our initial offer is like $850. And here I am negotiating hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I didn't even know how to sell a house at this point, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And all I remember is once we got to this, and there was so many learning experiences and trials and tribulations through that one deal alone. But I remember sitting in a high rise at settlement for this, and we ended up settling at $975, I believe, is what we got there. I know. I was like, damn, 25 grand away from $1 million.
Yeah.
But and I was top floor in this title company's office, and you could see the whole Philadelphia skyline, and I'm like, holy smokes, like, this is what real estate's like? Like, when you start selling, and needless to say, I wouldn't have seen another $1 million deal for another, like, 4 years. So
you're like, man, look at this.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So we fast forward, you open up your, you leave and you start a team, right?
So I ended up leaving the team that I originally went to, and I went to another team. So the team that I was originally at really set an amazing foundation to be a buyer's agent. And then it got to a point where I was referring a bunch of listings, and at the time, the way the team was structured is you would refer the listings to the team lead, and you would co-list it together, and you would get a smaller cut because he would take the lead, which was fine because I didn't know how to list a home. I didn't have the funds to invest in marketing and all that kind of stuff up front. So it worked for me, but I knew I wanted to become a listing agent at some point in my career. And the next team I went on really gave me the ability to learn how to handle listings. So I was on that team for about 1.5 years, and then I ended up breaking out and going out and being a solo agent for about 6 months, 8 months time. And then it just got to the point where I was like, all right, I think I need to start hiring support staff and really start the team building process.
When did you know when you needed to hire the support staff?
When I started missing deadlines on paperwork.
Yeah.
Because I was listing appointments, showings, and the paperwork was just stacking up. I knew I needed somebody back in the office to help with the paperwork.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So as you were building your team, what qualities do you look for in potential team members?
Yeah, so my first agent that I brought over, so I had 2 assistants before I had any other agents. And I'd been talking to my brother for a long time. He was at the Lerner School of Business at University of Delaware, finishing out his business degree. And I remember always talking to him like, yeah, let's start a real estate team together. Like, I think we can really make something special.
Cody?
Yeah, Cody.
Okay.
So he ended up, he was thinking about it for a while, ended up getting into mortgages for, I don't know, 9 months to a year, or no, probably 6 to 8 months. And then it got to the point where he was now asking me real estate questions about becoming an agent. So fast forward, he ended up getting his license. I brought him over. So my brother was actually my first agent that worked under me. So I didn't really, I knew who he was. You know what I mean? Like, we grew up together. But
I got you.
Once I started adding agents, I knew I wanted full-time agents. I wanted agents that had a drive and that were coachable. I think those were drive and coachability are like the 2 intangibles that you can't coach somebody to be more coachable or have that drive. But I can coach somebody to sell double their real estate business.
Yeah.
So as long as I had somebody that was coachable and had that motivation, I knew that was somebody that I wanted on my team.
That's awesome. And now, you know, you're interviewing with agents every week.
Yeah.
Do you have a question, something like that you'll ask to kind of gauge what is their drive?
Yeah.
I struggle with that personally.
Yeah. So, I mean, the way that Corey and I were growing Crown to in the early parts of Crown where we were the ones making 100% of the recruiting calls. We got to the point where we were interviewing 8 to 10 agents a week. And it started to negatively affect our core business, which was our personal real estate business.
Yeah.
So we ended up leveraging an ISA position to start the recruiting calls for us. I forget what the question was.
What was it? So what do you ask them to figure out if they are motivated? I mean,
yeah.
You're not making any money if they don't sell any houses.
Exactly. It's actually,
and
we're not making money.
It's a downer on the morale for the office.
Yes,
I mean, that's the biggest cost for me is like, I come into the office, I left the gym, I'm fired up, I've done my morning routine. I don't really want to look at someone and explain to them why I'm making calls today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think it just comes down to what we're trying to build over there. You know what I mean? Like, we're not necessarily going after the top agents. I think we're going after more people that are more of a cultural fit for what we're looking to build.
Okay.
Because again, it goes back to what I'm looking for to bring agents onto my team. If they are a good cultural fit and they're motivated and they're coachable, I mean, it doesn't really matter how much business that they're doing. If they have those 3 intangibles, we can coach somebody to do 1 million deals a year or 10 deals a year. It just depends on what their personal goals are. Yeah.
So they need to have, so basically what you're saying is like, figure out, do they have a big enough why?
Yes, exactly.
And then, you know, I personally get a lot from what are they saying is the reason they're moving? Are they moving because they're not getting the proper training, support, and they're in a slow environment? That's probably a good hire, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Or are they moving because where they're coming from, they're making them make phone calls and they don't like talking on the phone?
Exactly.
Right.
But we also have ways around that as well.
Yeah,
you know, through different technology and stuff like that to automate your prospecting. But that's a different topic.
Yeah. Let's stay on track. All right. Moving forward, you got your team running now, right? You guys are killing it, and then I guess you get a phone call from Corey Harris. He says, "Hey, what? I need some help over here with Crown Homes.
Yeah,
let's blow this thing up."
I mean, that's another kind of cool story. So Corey and I were doing some like distressed properties together, and he ended up, and I was at a different firm at the time, and he just randomly sent me over an offer of what it would look like to come over to Crown. And I was like, I remember calling him, I'm like, man, I hate you for this. This is a great offer. I was like, but I don't think I'm going to make a move right now. I had just moved about a year prior. My first daughter was just born 4 months prior. So I had a lot going on personally. So I ended up talking to my wife about it, and I was like, I don't know. I mean, maybe there's something there. And then I remember having an idea, like, I always wanted to be in the North Wilmington area. That's where I was born and raised. I always wanted to have offices there. And so I remember talking to Corey. I was like, hey, have you ever thought about having a business partner to open up like a North Wilmington office? And he was like, I would definitely be into that.
Nice.
So we ended up having multiple conversations about what that structure would look like. And we ended up pulling the trigger on it. And then from there, I mean, it kind of just snowballed into the 5 offices that we have now together.
That's sick.
Yeah. So it was,
and it's been like a year, 2 years. We both kind of started at the same time.
Yeah. So it'll be 2 years, like mid-March. So we're coming up on 2 years now.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, the growth that we've experienced is amazing.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, now we get into the brokerage side of things. I think we both kind of have a different outlook, and we kind of both like broke the mold of what the traditional brokerage style is. And I love it. I think that's eliminated a lot of like mental ceilings for a lot of people in our area, truthfully.
Yeah, I do too. I do too. I mean, I know you have a ton of agents over here that are putting up way bigger numbers than where they were at in the past. And same for Corey and I with Crown Homes. And it's amazing to see the growth that these people can get when they're given the proper tools, the proper system, and the proper guidance.
Yeah. And that's not, I mean, we're not saying this because we're trying to recruit people. This is our life.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So, what do you think are like, I mean, what are some of the things? I know, I mean, for us, I think most other companies are denying like the technology, the video, the stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I think the issue is a lot of agents think that they have a ton of technology. Like, oh, like, do you know that our company has this? You type in the address and you get a listing presentation, and I'm like, you know, like
yeah, I had that 4 years ago.
Yeah, like they give you free paper over here, dude. Like, what are you doing? Leave it. You know, we don't have to pay for our printer ink.
Yeah, I mean, you and I talk about it almost every Friday on our morning call. Like we hear these agents like, oh, well, I love the tech over here. Like all these traditional brokerages claim that they're tech-enabled companies, when in reality, a lot of their tech, and I'm not talking bad about any other firm, it's just what I've experienced. And a lot of their tech is antiquated. It's things that you and I and Corey and other people have had 3-4 years ago.
Right. Yeah, it blows my mind.
It does.
And, you know, there's only so much you can do off of that old school, you know, that old school mentality. So when you got the opportunity to say, hey, we have an opportunity now to run a brokerage, I want to change a lot of the, you know, all like the limiting beliefs, and then also change like to get rid of all those obstacles that you had as an agent in a traditional brokerage. What were some of the things you guys did differently?
So, I mean, I think one thing that Corey and I did is we invested heavily in tech day one.
Okay.
And I mean, from our CRM to our automation platform to the data and everything that we supplied to the agents, I mean, everything that is usually a secondary cost for you as an agent to get, we pretty much provide for every single agent.
Yeah. And that's a huge, when you've got no money, that's a huge thing to buy a big CRM.
Yeah, man. I remember when I was fortunate. I joined a team first, but I remember like before I even knew like much about CRMs, I was diving into like what's the cost of a CRM, and this was like a couple months I was in the business, and I'm like, holy smokes, like $600 a month. Like at the time, that was still is a lot of money, but that was a heck of a lot of money for me at the time.
Right.
And I'm like, I can't afford that.
What's the cost of? I remember buying Mojo. Buying, and I remember being on the phone with the people at Mojo, like, I'm ready to buy this for like $350, and it's going to change. It's going to change the trajectory of my business.
Yeah,
like if I just pull the trigger.
Yeah.
You know, now you should see the stuff I'm blowing money on. But I think another big thing is probably like the growth mindset. Like a lot of like, there's no shot that two of the other big brokerages in our company have the owners collabing on a podcast right now.
Yeah.
Like that's not happening.
No,
you know what I'm saying?
Not at all.
But,
not at all.
You almost have to, because I can take all your information and give it to all my agents, right? And you can take everything that we're doing and all of our benefits and give it to your agents.
And I think that's kind of going back to like kind of how you break the mold of the more traditional brokerages to the more modern tech-enabled brokerages. I think a lot of it has to do with exactly what you said, the collaboration. I talk about it all the time, like especially in recruiting appointments, that one of the biggest things that was a turnoff for me was, especially being a new agent, was trying to find help, like asking somebody like, hey, where are you getting your listings and stuff? And everything was such a big secret. But I think that the way of the future is taking a more collaborative approach to that, and really being an open playbook to help people maximize their potential.
Right. That's the key. I think that's the true sign of a leader is, you know, it's not about how much money I'm making. It's about helping another human get to their absolute full potential.
Exactly. There's enough real estate deals and houses to sell for everybody to do whatever they want with their career. Yeah.
I think people see that too when they talk to you. It's clear your goal, you know, is to do that, and I'm the same way.
Yeah.
You know, if we wanted to make money, I think both of us could make a lot more money running a buy and sell business.
Probably.
I could probably sell more than you. So
Yeah. Okay. I recruit more than you. So
there you go. Technology. Is there anything specific that, as far as technology goes, that's been a game changer for you in either recruiting or the buy and sell side?
Yeah. Yes, there is. I think it's the way that we have figured out how to automate our prospecting.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yep. And then also having data is one thing, but having accurate data is a game changer. And I think the way that we gather our data and we double skip trace it, everything and get the most accurate data possible, I think that's really setting the groundwork for what we're seeing growth wise with the agents coming over.
Right. I think that's huge, right? Because if you guys don't know what skip tracing is, that's finding everyone's numbers. So what everybody does is they get a system that just sends them. Let's use a for sale by owner, for example.
Yeah, that's a good example.
The for sale by owner puts a number on Zillow. Within 3 days, everyone in the world is calling that phone number.
Yeah.
Now, what you do and what I do is we double skip trace that. So now I have 6 phone numbers for that guy.
Exactly.
And I have 6 email addresses.
Yep.
So,
and you also probably have some relatives that might be living with them as well that you can reach out to.
Right. So a lot of times the husband wants to sell it by owner.
Yep.
I don't know, or wife.
Yeah.
And the other spouse, you call the other spouse and they're like, I told him he needs to hire.
I hear it all the time.
But no one's calling her.
No.
She only talks to you because you're the only one double skip tracing it.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think that probably goes back to that growth mindset. You know, someone shared that probably with you, or Corey's the one that shared that with me.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I owe a lot of the tech side to Corey. I mean, he's a wizard with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's insane.
It is. And I mean, Brian, talking about the growth mindset, I mean, I think again, what sets your company apart and our company apart is having leaders with big visions.
Yeah.
You know, if you're thinking you want to do 50 sales, you might hit 35 or 45. But if you're thinking you want to do 200 sales, you'll probably hit 60, 70, 80 sales.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the bigger you think, the more you're able to do.
Yeah. And I think 200's even like that's low.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, what's Grant Cardone say? 10x everything?
Yeah.
You know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just who you're around, right? I mean,
that's a huge part of it, man, it's who you surround yourself with. Like I know you have some awesome agents over here, and I think that's going to elevate the agents that are brand new because they're able to collaborate. They're able to have high level conversations with straight killers in the business, and same with Crown Homes.
Yeah. I kind of take a little bit of responsibility for continuing to pull in that new talent.
Yeah.
To give that to our, our other agents, because I think they need it too,
100%.
So,
yeah. And I mean, that's our duty as the leaders of brokerages, is to always be bringing in somebody that can help elevate the company.
Yeah.
Or the morale or the culture of what we're building.
Right. That number one guy, you recruit somebody who's doing 10 more sales than him.
Yeah.
He's
going to be hungry.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Yeah.
He's getting a little comfortable.
Yep. That's that fire that they need to get it in the next year.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I want. Like I remember calling you or Corey and I'm like, oh, here's my goal for 2024. And you're like, oh, I want to do this. I'm like, what? That's not even possible, dude. What are you talking about? I'm like, I'm not going to tell him it's not possible, but I'm in my head and you're thinking like, is that low? But all right, let's keep going. So you're always recruiting new agents. Most of them are probably doing less than 5 transactions.
Yeah.
I know you guys have some big players, but what type of advice would you give to the agent out there about, how can you be from 5 deals and get, what are the first couple steps they should take?
That's a great question. So, I mean, what I like to do first and foremost is kind of start peeling those layers back and really getting into the nitty gritty of what they're doing day in and day out. What does their daily structure look like? Who are you calling? How many calls are you making? Where are you getting that data from? And then like what kind of scripts are you using? And then kind of going into like, all right, well, what's going to happen once you get to 20 deals? Like why do you want to do that? I want to always find somebody's why. And then we can kind of reverse engineer, like, all right, let's say you're doing 5 deals, you want to do 20. You tell me you're making 3 calls a day. You only work 4 hours a day, whatever the case may be. I mean, that's something that's a super easy fix. It's hey, let's really get the structure of your day down, and figure out who you need to call. Let's talk about closing out your day and setting up your next morning's call data the night before. So you're coming in and you're hitting the ground running. You're not wasting all of that time. So, I mean, in order to double, triple, quadruple somebody's business, I think there needs to be some
well, first of all, I don't think they have a schedule, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Second of all,
Yep.
they're probably not calling consistently.
Yep. And the people that are that I hear in recruiting appointments that are doing the 5 or 10 deals a year and they want to double their business, a large portion of their business is coming from SOI, which SOI business, in my opinion, is the best type of business to have. The problem with SOI business is the hardest type of business to scale. You can't go out and meet 5 new friends today that are going to start referring you business tomorrow. It doesn't happen like that. I wish it did, but it doesn't. So then we have to figure out, okay, well, what's your apprehension for calling expireds or calling your past database or whatever it is, or investing money into your business to get internet leads or Google pay-per-click or Facebook ads or whatever the case may be, and then kind of giving them that roadmap. You and I have already had to break through those barriers to go from whatever amount of deals to where we're at now. And we learned a lot throughout the way, right? We made a lot of mistakes. We wasted a lot of money. So maybe they don't know where to invest their money. Maybe they don't know where to invest their time. So we have to give them that roadmap of, hey, this is how I did it. Maybe it'll work for you.
Yeah, 100%. And what do you tell the agent who says they don't want to make calls? I don't really want to call because they're going to yell at me.
I mean, I think you got to figure out what their why is again. You know what I mean? Like, nobody likes making calls. Like, that's probably my least favorite part of the day, but that's the most important part of the day.
Yeah.
Because if you're not focused on the dollar producing activities, which is prospecting, you're not going to be able to double your business or get to 20 deals. You're going to be stuck in that 5 to 7, 5 to 10 deal a year swing, and that's it.
Yeah. 100%. Let's not harp on that. I've spent too much of my life convincing people to call. So let's just move forward. What I want to know is, now you're there, right? That's how you started, and those were the habits you made. 7 years in, are your calls different? Are you able to see anything about what number to call, or is there anything you've learned that fast tracks that?
I think it comes down to repetition, right? When it comes to your scripts, like when I first got on the phone, like I sounded like a robot.
Yeah.
Like if they said something out of order, I was scrambling. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of figuring out what your flow is and having those at bats to hear all the different objections. And now objections to me aren't true objections. Right. You know what I mean? That's just a roadblock that I have to get over.
Yeah.
And knowing what to say and how to say it and how to make that delivery.
Another thing is, do you guys have your data go into a CRM, your expireds?
No, we don't.
Okay.
We keep all of our data in our dialer.
Okay. Which is in a way a CRM.
Yeah,
CRM.
exactly.
Yeah, but it doesn't go into your main Lofty account.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
That's awesome. And then, are you guys still texting?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really, I mean, just with growing the team, doing my buy and sell business and growing Crown Homes, I mean, my schedule's crazy nowadays. So I really rely on the prospecting automation to really be my main prospecting source.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys share that with everybody that comes over, right?
We do, yeah.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the fact is you can only call so many people.
Exactly.
And if you get those automations right and you only have an hour and a half scheduled to prospect, use that hour and a half just calling the hand raisers, right?
So prime example, Brian. So like when I first became a listing agent, I was making 500 to 1,000 dials a day.
Right.
And that would take 4 to 6 hours a day. Like I don't have 4 to 6 hours in my schedule nowadays to be able to make that work.
Right.
So, and 500 or 1,000 dials took 6 hours, let's say. Now I can do a mass automation to 1,000 people. And now I'm fielding those inbound text replies or inbound phone calls.
Right.
And I'm out in different meetings or running appointments or whatever it is. So it's just a matter of using technology to leverage your time.
Awesome. 100%. Now you're taking that and you're passing those leads off to someone, or are you taking the listing leads, they get the buyer leads?
So the way that I have it set up right now, almost all of my buyer business goes to my brother Cody now. And I'm still running listing appointments every day.
Awesome.
Yep.
Now, what are your like top three? Like for me, it's working on the systems and training, recruiting, and listings.
Yeah.
If it doesn't have to do with that, don't call me.
Yeah. So my main three focuses now is making sure I'm providing value to everybody on the team and the company, my listing business, and growing Crown Homes.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Same.
those are, so very
Same
similar
thing.
to you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think everybody listening, like, you have to know, because if not, and you don't have a schedule and you don't have your quote unquote job description, then you're doing everybody else's job.
Yep.
You're replying to emails all day, replying to texts, and everybody else's emergencies are your emergencies.
Exactly.
So
let me ask you this, Brian. When you started getting to the point where you were growing your team, how hard was it for you to start leveraging those tasks that kind of just sucked up a little bit too much of your time? Like, did you have a hard time letting go of those things?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I still do.
Yeah.
I mean,
same.
Just yesterday, I was, we had an issue with the deal, and, I start panicking, and then I realized, oh, it's been handled, right, by somebody.
Yep.
And, you saw on my way in here that it did, I don't know that, it was done properly, but it is what it is. In order to scale, here's the thing. You can help one person slightly better if you pour all your time and energy into them.
Yep.
But the reality is I'm in a position where I have the opportunity to help hundreds of people, right? Yes. I can help my whole entire sphere of influence by staying present.
Yep.
And having someone in that role who's better than me at helping them. And I can have a transaction coordinator my transaction coordinator's been doing this for almost 30 years.
That's amazing.
She's in front of her computer all day.
Yep.
With a spreadsheet. She's got our clients' files opened up right now. If someone calls them, they're getting answered right away. The ball's never in my court. It's in and out within 5 minutes. You know what I mean? And I have to put 5 minutes a day into it. So overall, more people are being helped, times 100 by having the right person in place. That's what it comes down to.
Yep, having the right people in place and being able to leverage those tasks to other people so you can cast a wider net with the people you help.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And you can't take, if you want to do everything yourself, you can't take more than 3 or 4 listings.
Exactly.
And 3 or 4 buyers. I would say as a company, we're probably total representing over 100 buyers right now. And we probably as a company have a total of 25 listings.
Yeah.
40 pending deals.
Yep.
What am I going to do with that?
Yeah.
I can't. It's now at the point where I can't do it all.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. And that's where you have to really rely on your team and your staff to really help you out.
And if you're not leading them and also growing, you're hurting them.
Yep.
Then you're hurting everybody else.
Exactly.
So it's crazy.
Yeah.
What about you? Was it hard? Do you? I know you have your sister works for you. My sister works for me.
Yep. Yeah. It's hard. I think it was harder when my director of operations was not a family member.
You got to be able to really
because
let
of
it out.
that trust factor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now that Caitlin's taking over that role, it's been amazing, and the business is growing every single day now. But yes, it's still hard, and sometimes she's still like, "Why are you doing this? Like, I can do that for you."
Yeah.
So I'm grateful.
And I'm kind of at a position where if I do it, they're almost getting a little bit less version of service, because they
Agreed,
do it every single day.
Yep.
I give a buyer client to one of my buyer agents. I'm like, guys, she sold 4 houses in that neighborhood last year. I haven't been there.
Yeah.
She's in there more than any other agent.
Yep.
She is the expert.
Exactly.
She knows how much the HOA is. She knows where the mailboxes are. She knows the mailman's name. She knows how close the hospital is. There's no reason for me in there.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Exactly, man.
So I want to get into recruiting just because you guys did an awesome job. How many agents do you know? How many agents did you bring on last year?
75 or 80. We're at 101 agents total right now.
That's insane.
Yeah.
What's your process look like? I mean, do you have an avatar of a certain agent that you're looking for? Do you have
really? I mean, yes, we have an avatar.
You don't have to share what it is or whatever.
We have a agent profile, so to speak, that we're looking for. But really it comes down to are they a good fit? Are they going to buy into what we're creating? Because what we're building is unlike anything else.
Yeah.
And I would rather have somebody that is a great cultural fit that is doing less business than somebody that might not be the best cultural fit that's killing it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Love it. Same here.
Yep.
There's certain people and it just drives everybody down,
Exactly.
And you're kind of the gatekeeper for everybody else's day. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Well said.
So, achieving a task of 75 agents, I mean, you must have crazy onboarding systems.
Yeah.
That's all got to be, it's all got to be laid out. And
I mean, we're so fortunate with Harley and Caitlin, the way that they've streamlined our onboarding process. I mean, we're onboarding people in a matter of hours.
Wow.
To the point where they're like, yes, I want to come over. If everything gets signed right away, I mean, they could start conducting business in about 6 to 8 hours.
That's insane.
As a Crown Homes agent.
Awesome.
Yep. And that's including transferring all their listings over, getting all the transfer documents for whether it's Delaware, Pennsylvania, Maryland, or all three. That's getting them access to all the systems, emails, CRM, data dialer, all that kind of stuff.
Awesome.
Yep.
So you've spent some time fine-tuning that system.
Yep.
You've let them know if an agent's coming, that's your top priority because they're putting a lot of trust in us when they say, hey, we're coming over.
1,000%.
You stop what you're doing. And, that's a pivotal moment in their life.
We definitely don't take it lightly, and we know that is a very, very important decision in their life.
Yeah.
So we really have to perform and be on our A game in those transferring situations.
When it comes to a cultural fit, there's not a way to measure it, right? And
there's not.
There's not minimum standards, right? So that's when a few of my agent friends, I said, hey, I'm interviewing a guy who has recruited 70 agents in the last year. What questions do you have? And that's what they say. Do you have any minimum standards? How do you measure if someone's a cultural fit?
I think it's just a matter of diving deep into a genuine conversation and really figuring out, what are they lacking in their business? Because if they say that they're trying to get help and nobody's willing to help, well, that to me, that's somebody that I want in the company because they're going out seeking help. And then in my mind, in return, they're going to, once somebody seeks help from them, they're going to be more willing to give them their playbook, so to speak. But I think it really comes down to kind of their why as well,
Right. If it's, I watch HGTV, I work from home, and I think my uncle's going to sell his house next year. I want to have my license for when he does.
Yep. That's one thing.
Right.
And then you have the people that are, hey, I was just let go from my job. I have nowhere else to go. And it's either sink or swim, kind of like my situation.
Yeah, right. Let's go.
So, let's go. Like that. Those are my type of people.
Yeah. Have you ever, and I know you guys are early in your brokerage just like I am, and I haven't really necessarily experienced this yet, but are there minimum standards for production? I mean, if someone goes, I think we all have those agents. You haven't seen them in 6 months. They haven't came to a sales meeting. They aren't selling. They're referring out their business.
Yeah.
Aside from, the obstacle of them having to renew with the board, do you guys have any minimum standards in place?
Yeah, so I'm not going to get into all like the specifics, but we definitely do. Some of our main minimum standards are you have to attend one company meeting a month. Ideally, it's the company sales meeting or our company coaching call. So Corey and I, and you, we all have the same business and real estate coach, and Corey and I actually hired Rob to coach our entire company.
Yeah, same.
So whether it's coming to the monthly sales meeting or coming to that monthly coaching call, those are really what we're really looking for. And Crown Homes also gives bottom of the funnel realtor.com leads. So in order to be eligible to get those leads, you have to attend at least one of those meetings a month.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's great because it's so difficult because it's not how many numbers you're putting up. That's the metric. You know what I mean? It's something that you can't even put into words.
Exactly.
Because, what's the difference? Well, this person shows up every day and they try and they're asking questions and this person's, shows up with sweatpants on. They haven't, whatever. So, do you track if they're calling those leads?
Yeah. So the way that we do it, like we're not necessarily tracking and hounding them on like how they're communicating with them. We're more interested in like, how quickly have you called them, and are you taking them through the proper progressions of the pipeline in the CRM?
So if there's someone in the new lead that came in a week ago.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Right.
Yeah, with no outbound attempts, stuff like that. But again, like Corey and I are not micromanagers at all. Nobody in our leadership team really is. But yeah, we do take a look, and if you're not bringing them through that sales pipeline, then that's a conversation.
Yeah, and are those types of decisions. You mentioned your leadership team. We created a leadership team as well. I know it's hard looking inside the operation when you're on the outside, right? So do you guys leverage the leadership team to make a lot of those decisions?
Yeah. So one thing that Corey and I realized early on, and this was before we got the Middletown office. I think we had just had the original Hocassin office and the North Wilmington office. We were making big business decisions that affected all of our agents on a day-to-day basis. And Corey and I took a step back and had many conversations on this, that it's not necessarily what him and I want. Like, we need more input from the agents. And that's kind of what led us to creating the leadership committee to help with those business decisions, to help with, hey, are we going to switch up the coaching program? How many Crown Homes client appreciation events are we running every year? All those kind of decisions. Like we kind of let the leadership team run with that.
And there's a lot of I did it when there was a point where like 4 companies came out with a monthly fee. I'm like, oh
yes.
I could see myself in a position as the owner of a company where I said, okay, we're now not profitable for 6 months. We need to do something to become profitable. We're paying checks for 300 agents that aren't selling homes. What do we do, right? And I feel like, the agents should be the one to make that decision, because do we buy more leads, right?
Yeah.
To get more money coming in. Do we recruit more agents? Do we make minimum standards? I mean, there's 100 ways you can solve that issue, but
and also
telling everyone we're going to charge you an extra X amount of dollars a month would not be an easy conversation.
Yeah, no. And who am I to be the one like to mandate that? Like that's a collective decision.
Right.
You know what I mean? It has to be.
So what is your ratio when you're recruiting from new agents who haven't been in the business to agents who have been in for a while? I know Miguel does most of it.
Yeah, so Miguel is our ISA that does the majority of the recruiting outbound calls. I would say we definitely have way more experienced established agents than we do the brand new agents. And I think that's just who he's calling, right? But I would say, I mean, I don't know what the metrics are off the top of my head, but I would say we might have like 10 or 15 newer agents, and
which are mainly word of mouth.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yep. And those are the people that are just coming out of school. They call Corey or myself, and they're like, hey, I want to come join Crown.
Awesome. Love it. And then, the other questions that I got asked were, do you have a lot of support staff, or do you guys lean on like that training program and stuff like that?
Yeah. So, right now, I mean, our support staff is really our broker, our company trainer. We have an in-house company trainer that does a lot of like the teaching of the systems in the onboarding process. They do. We just started a new weekly or bi-weekly new agent training orientation for those new agents to get them up to speed on, hey, this is how you get buyer business. This is what you do in showings. This is how you negotiate home inspection repairs or whatever the case may be. So Amanda has that whole syllabus laid out. But really it's me, Corey, Harley, Caitlin, Amanda, John. That's our support staff.
Awesome.
That's really in
lean.
the trenches. Yeah.
And, you know, the other thing that I really admire about you guys from a leadership standpoint is, I don't know you or Corey, but it's clear that you guys saw something in an agent and then brought them into a more of a role.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that's something that's really, really important trait and quality to have as a leader, is to be able to identify people's strengths and play towards that strengths to elevate them even further.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that we do at a high level.
So for those of you listening, all of the people you just named were once realtors.
They all are realtors
Who had a special gift, whatever, drive, passion.
Yep.
And you guys were able to put them in that position.
Yep.
So now, you know, they continue to grow. And it's crazy that that'll trickle down to where someone else was working alongside of them and watching them. Yo, look at him.
Exactly.
You know
that trickle down effect. And that's going to elevate everybody. It doesn't matter what your production level is or what your position in the company is.
Right.
So yeah, I think that's really, really important.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I give you guys a lot of credit. So just wrapping up, I mean, what's your vision for the future of real estate brokerages? Do you think our model of a smaller, I mean, I'm taking the smaller boutique style. I think you guys want to recruit every agent
in the world. Yeah. So
we're looking at real estate in California right now while we're doing this.
So we have big vision. We have lofty goals. But my vision for the future of real estate brokerages is, I think we already are seeing a trend of the more boutique agent-owned brokerages are starting to become more and more of a thing. And I think it's because of a few different things. The real estate market the past 3 years has been crazy. It really takes a lot of skill and talent to be able to flourish in this type of career. And I think the newer age brokerages that are led by top producing real estate agents, they have an edge over maybe the more traditional brokerages that has an office manager and a broker that's not selling real estate day to day, and how to properly structure, how to deal doctor deals when situations arise.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that's one of the advantages we both share is we're still selling. So
we are,
you know,
both at high levels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, I told everybody 2 years ago to start texting. Well, overnight, texting is illegal. Now what do you do?
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing robocalls overnight. That's illegal.
Illegal, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, we're doing mass emails overnight. That's done.
Yeah.
But like, we both share that thing of like, I need to sell more houses a month than most people have for their yearly goal.
Yes.
In order to just survive. So whatever it's doing to do that, we're giving it back to everybody.
And I love that what you just said about being able to pivot really quickly. Like you said,
overnight, literally.
You have to. And I think a lot of these more traditional brokerages are a lot more of a corporate model where they have to run things up 6 different layers to get a decision to be made. And then it takes 3-4 months to implement a change that to catch up to the market. Whereas your company, my company, I mean, we're pivoting in a matter of days.
Right.
And I think that's really keeping us in the forefront of what's going on in the market today.
And we're talking like this. I mean, off camera, you and I are talking 3 to 4 times a week.
Yeah. Yep.
This isn't working. What are you doing for listing generation? What are you doing? And I think you need someone like that in your corner, whether it's a coach, whatever.
The best thing I ever did was hire a real estate business coach.
Yeah.
That by far the best decision I've ever made in my career.
Yeah.
It just took me from doing this to hitting that 100 deal plus mark.
Yeah, it's insane. So last but not least, what advice would you give new agents or those considering starting So either a new agent in real estate or a new agent starting, or an existing agent who wants to start a brokerage based on the journey and the lessons you've learned.
I would say for the new agent, don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Find somebody that is going to help mentor you. And where I really think the real value is as a brand new agent is I think you need to join a team. I think there's too many things out there in the real estate world that it's hard to navigate if you are brand new. You have no real estate experience like I did when I first got into it. Having that guidance and having the mentorship of your team leader or the other realtors on that team, I think is paramount to growing at a fast pace.
Or a company where,
or a company that pours
like team level benefits
yes.
into some way.
Exactly. And I think that's what the new age brokerages are also doing is I know your company, I know my company act as if one big team, but we have teams within our company.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think that's another thing that keeps modern, newer brokerages afloat.
Yeah, 100%. And any lessons you've learned since growing Crown Homes that you would want to pass on to someone else, or things you would have done differently?
There's always things that you can do differently. What I think is the most important if you want to start your own real estate brokerage is make sure you have the systems and processes in place before you get to that point.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be running from behind and, all right, I have 5 agents that want to come join my company, but I don't have a way to process commission checks. Or right.
Whatever.
Like that's just an egregious example.
Well, yeah. Like we were handwriting checks.
Yeah. Make sure you have your systems and processes in place because that's what's going to help you scale faster.
100%. Yep. Which Corey's a machine at that.
Amazing.
Yeah.
The way he implements processes, I'm just like, dude, I'm glad you're my business partner.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, if you don't know, me and Rob are also partners in Sunny Settlements with Corey.
Yep.
And, I think, you guys have accomplished a lot. I'm really glad you're able to share that with us today. Hopefully, the listeners learn something. You guys will share this so we can continue to keep getting good guests on here. Is there anything else you want to say, Rob? Or
No, man. I just want to thank you for having me on and just thanks for having me and having a great conversation.
100%. Thanks for all your efforts here today.
Yeah.
I think the listeners got a lot out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Crown Homes does sell more than Foraker Realty.